Hello, 8th grade. We are working out of your pre-algebra book, section 2.2 on page 51. We're looking at lots of properties of multiplication today. If we look on page 51, the definition for the closure property of multiplication just means that when you have a times a b, and here we'll substitute 5 times 4, it has an answer, an integer. For the commutative property of multiplication, when you multiply a times b, it is also equal to b times a. It's like 3 times 4 is also equal to 4 times 3. They're the same. On page 52, we have examples, so look with me. Example 1, use the commutative property to write an equivalent expression. So, just like in a community, I've talked about where neighbor A is standing next to neighbor B and they switch sides. They're still the same people, they're just in different places. So it would be very similar. Here in the example, we have 6 times negative 9. That is equal to negative 9 times 6. In example B, we have x times y. That is equal to y times x, commutative multiplication property. In example 2, on page 52, we see that we are to use the associative property to write an equivalent expression. Example 2a, we're given negative 7 times 8 all times 4. To rewrite that using associative property, we can because we're in one group of order of operations. And what that looks like is we can say, okay, negative 7 is also multiplied by 8 times 4 inside parentheses sets. The next example, B, is 3 times 5n in association with, we could say 3 times 5, also multiplied by n, which would be simplified actually to 15n. The identity property, we know anything times 1 is itself. It retains its identity as being multiplied by 1. So very simply put, any number times 1 retains its identity and stays itself. The 0 property of multiplication, any number times 0 is 0. See an example. It doesn't matter what the number is. It can be negative, it can be very large. But check this out right here. We have to recognize when a 0 appears in our equation. Notice that when you have negative 1,892 times 5 minus 5, this renames as a 0. It is multiplied by this number, and anything times 0 is 0. That's the 0 property of multiplication. Okay, so we looked at commutative, associative, identity, and 0 properties of multiplication. There's a chart on page 53 with examples. I'm going to run through these examples in review. Let's look. The property of multiplication called closure is that when you have two numbers multiplied together, they equal something. They equal an integer. For instance, negative 7 times 2 is negative 14. The commutative property, that's the one where a times b is equal to b times a. So our example is negative 6 times negative 5. That is equal to negative 5 times negative 6. So this is the closure property of multiplication. This is the commutative property of multiplication. Okay. The associative property is an example. I even use brackets for this one. Negative 5 times 4 times 9 would equal negative 5, moving the brackets over, 4 times 9. The answer would be the same, so it is equal. That's associative. The associative property of multiplication. Okay, the identity property. This is your example. Negative 7 times 1 is equal to 1 times negative 7, which is equal to negative 7. Anything times 1 retains its identity. And the zero property. Anything times 0 is 0. Even if it's a large number, and say this as well. They're equal to each other because all of it equals 0. It's the zero property. Become familiar with these properties of multiplication in section 2.2. Be able to recognize them as you work with them. I hope this lesson helps you with your assignment, and we'll see you soon.